Once again, we are on with the Black Comic Lords in the building. I'm in a different building today. I'm in a hotel room in Tampa with my family. But the show must go on. And we need to have another episode of Wakanda Whiskey and Blurredom. So, what's up, my man?
What's going on, Doc? How's everything?
What's that shirt you got on? Captain America?
Just regular Captain America shirt.
Showing your patriotism. I know you love you some Captain America.
I do. So,
So, speaking of Captain America, let's talk about the true patriot of the United States, Mr. James Rhodes.
hold on a second. Hold on. What is the name of this show? Dude, we've been doing this for
I'm
a while now.
you're absolutely correct. Wakanda Whiskey and Blurredom. What you sipping on?
This is something that I bought actually several months ago, but haven't opened up yet. Whenever I buy something new, I reserve it for our talks here. It's called Aberfeldy. It's a single malt. I prefer single malt, not blends. It's a 12-year Scotch. Now, what's crazy is I just looked it up. I sent Paul a link to this whiskey because I was hoping he was going to put it up on the screen so you folks could see it. But the
Ah,
website that I went to has this whiskey listed, this Scotch's whiskey. It has this Scotch listed for $220. I most assuredly did not spend $220 on this bottle. I
$220 American?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I probably spent maybe 50, no more than 60 for sure. So I'm gonna let it breathe for a second before I give it a pour. But it's a 12-year-old whiskey. Now here's what people need to understand. When you talk about the age of a whiskey is nothing but a blend of different wheat grains. Okay. When this show first started, we was like Wakanda whiskey, bourbon, and blurredom or something like that. What people need to understand is that all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. So when you say Scotch, when you say Irish whiskey, when you say bourbon, when you say rye, all of that is whiskey. Whiskey is basically what it's made of. It's the grains. What's going to distinguish it is A, where it's made, and B, the amount of grain build in that particular blend. So, for example, if the blend is mostly rye, it is a rye. If it has, just over a certain amount of wheat or whatever, it's a bourbon or whatever it is. There are a couple of shows that really go into what whiskey is and how to make it. If you have access to Tubi, there's a documentary called Straight Up. Now, I haven't watched it yet, but I imagine that it's probably pretty good that tells you how whiskeys are made. There's another one on Hulu. If you have access to Hulu, there's one called Neat, and I can't remember what the name of the other one is. But if you go on Hulu and look up Neat, it tells you all about whiskey and things of that nature.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm gonna go
watched
ahead and
Neat
give this a
myself.
pour.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it was. It was. There's another one I just can't remember. There's another one on Hulu that I just can't remember the name of. Let's see.
What's up in the chat to Derek and C Bizzle and Sierra? What's up, y'all? C Bizzle and I did a really cool show last night on top picks in upcoming comics.
Okay.
So how is it?
I just gave this a sip. I might have to let it marinate for a minute. Um,
You need to drop a drop of water in there.
well, I'm gonna let it sit with me for a minute. I'm gonna let it breathe a little bit more. It's not horrible. I
Let's
can't
see.
say on its first taste, it's like, oh my god, this is the nectar of the gods. It's okay. It's all right.
It's a Highland Scotch owned by John Dewar and Sons. Alberfeldy Distillery dates back to 1898. Was established initially to ensure a supply of single malt for Dewar's white label blend. Although Alberfeldy 12-year-old Highland single malt is still used within its blend, it stands alone as a beautiful example of Scottish single malt, offering a complexity of flavor rarely seen in 12-year-old malts. This is a dram fan of malt. Simply must try.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm not gonna.
It's okay.
It's
So
it's
it's
That's
It's
far. It's okay.
it's definitely a $50 to $60 whiskey, but not a $220.
No, not to me. One of the ones that I keep telling people about, that I've told you about, is the Wolf Moon. That bottle at the liquor store that I go to here was $15 a bottle. You could easily charge 80 or more dollars based on taste of that particular whiskey. It is phenomenal. I cannot say enough about it. But it may be hard to come by. You may have to, try to search for it, but I'm telling you right now, Wolf Moon, now that's a good whiskey to try. This Aberfeldy, it's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put one of my ice cubes in it and see what that does to it. But I know that you don't go out and buy new bottles for every showing. So what do you're sipping on something that you've had before, right?
Yeah, like I said, I'm out of my home today, in a hotel room in Tampa, and so I just grabbed the closest bottle I had on my way out in preparation for the show. But this is what I got. Something I've talked about before: Duke and Dane salted caramel whiskey. Um, I was at a Caribbean festival several months ago, probably about 6 months ago or so, with the family. Ran into this brother who, another Jamaican brother, who owns this whiskey company, award-winning whiskey company. So it's a black-owned whiskey company. You got to support black-owned companies. And to be perfectly honest, this thing is absolutely delicious. It is very, very sweet. So it's not something that you'd have with a cigar, or I definitely wouldn't have it with a steak. But as a almost like an aperitif, it's that sweet. 35% alcohol, 70 proof, so it doesn't burn at all. But it's ridiculously delicious. I mean, you can see how much I drank already. It's absolutely delicious. I promise you, men, women, anybody will like this whiskey.
That's one of the things we should do too, is try to find more black owned whiskeys and taste them here as well. I think that would be probably a
I,
good
I,
idea.
I think I think that's an excellent idea. Is Uncle Nearest black owned, or is that
I
still
was
owned
just
by
getting
Jack?
get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head. I was just getting ready to mention Uncle Nearest. For
I think
those,
it's still technically owned by Jack Daniels, though, isn't it?
no, it's black owned.
It's definitely
It's
black
it's
owned.
black owned.
Okay.
All right, so check it. Everybody has heard of Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels, quite frankly, the regular old Jack Daniels is a garbage whiskey. When I first started drinking long, long time ago, as a teen or in my military days, you'd get a Jack and Coke. That's what Jack is good for. As I've mentioned here before, I really started drinking whiskey in earnest about 7 years ago. So my palate has developed, I would say, in being able to determine notes, hints of this or that, and actually having tasted some really good whiskey. Well, over the past, like I said, 7 years, having tasted a lot of whiskey, I've gone back and tried to drink Jack Daniels. Drinking Jack Daniels, just a regular old, $19, $25 bottle of Jack Daniels, is like drinking water with a charcoal briquette in it. It is absolutely horrible. But in relation to Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels obviously was a real person. He learned how to make whiskey from this guy by the name of Uncle Nearest, who was an enslaved individual who taught Jack Daniels all he needs to know. Well, about 6 or so years ago, there's a lady by the name of Fawn Weaver who somehow learned about this story and created the Uncle Nearest brand of whiskey. I had the fortune of going to their groundbreaking for their distillery 4 years ago at this point. Yeah, it was in 2019, right before my birthday, Paul. I drove up to Tennessee, is it Kentucky? It's either Kentucky or Tennessee. I honestly can't remember right now.
All those
But
states
I
are
drove,
basically the same.
right. So I drove up to their distillery for their groundbreaking. They have at least three expressions. I want to say I've had two of them. That's some good drinking. So if you have the ability to get some Uncle Nearest, I would highly recommend and suggest you get some Uncle Nearest. Again, it's Black owned. You can look up their story online. The person who's in charge of it, I want to say, is their CEO, is a lady by the name of Fawn Weaver. Shout out to her. Shout out to Uncle Nearest. And shout out to all Black companies in this space that has been traditionally white owned. So shout out to them.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Yeah,
we got real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we just got to figure out some different Black-owned whiskeys, and then start trying them
absolutely. I think we'll make that
for
our new
next.
thing.
For going forward.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, in advertising and promoting for today, the first thing I put in the headline was how long. And before I even say that, understand Secret Invasion came out Wednesday. It's Friday. I'm going to spoil the heck out of this movie. So if you're one of those people that gets offended by spoilers because you haven't watched it yet for some reason, you might want to mute the audio at this point because we're going
Do
to.
you have a graphic? Y'all should have a graphic for spoiler alert. Y'all need to
Uh,
create a graphic.
we'll work on that. We'll work on that. But yeah, let's get into Secret Invasion. On a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give the episode?
Well, I typically give things a scale of 1 to 10. The series overall for me is an 8. I love the series. This particular episode, I'll probably give a 9. And two of the reasons: Sam Jackson, Don
Excuse me
Cheadle.
for drinking out of a paper cup. As I said, I'm in a hotel, so I'm
Your
not.
hotel doesn't have glasses.
Apparently not. I mean, I don't see any.
They should. What are you in a Days Inn or something?
No, I'm at a Hard Rock.
Okay, that's interesting. Typically, the hotels that I stay in, along with the Gideon Bible, they have actual glasses and stuff.
I
But
didn't have time to search the room. We literally just walked in the door and I turned on the computer and now I'm here.
gotcha. But this series to me is really good. I understand that a lot of people aren't watching it. I don't understand why. Ryan Airy, who I've mentioned before from Screen Crush, he thinks that a lot of people aren't watching it because it doesn't seem like it's tied into the overall MCU or whatever. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's about, but I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm about to give a spoiler. The next few minutes are about to be spoilers about this show. This particular episode, we discovered that Rhodey, played by Don Cheadle, is a Skrull, a
No, we
female
didn't.
Skrull at that. The
No, we
issue is
didn't.
the
We
issue is going to
discovered
be
we
when
just we
was
discovered
Rhodey.
that last episode when his voice was on the phone with the lady.
Yeah, that's what they said, but it was confirmed in this week's episode that Rhodey is actually a Skrull and a female Skrull, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
That's big news. And the question leads is, okay, well, how long has Rhodey been a Skrull, right?
You didn't even put the dramatic effect on it. The question is how long?
That's what I just
Look,
said.
No, I mean saying emphasize it. How this is the significance of this, everyone. My biggest criticism of Secret Invasion is this, and this might be completely biased because I'm a comic head, but the comic book is so much more dramatic because in the comic book, the reveals of people being Skrulls and ultimately finding out the fates of the people they replaced was huge because you found out certain characters had been gone not just for a few weeks or a few months, but for years. And so entire storylines that you had been reading, you realized that person actually was a Skrull that entire time.
Yep.
So when you really think about it, every quirky thing that person's done comes into question until you know the time that they've been replaced. So at this point, it's all fair game. For all intents and purposes, Rhodey could have been a Skrull from day one. Because think about it. Rhodey and Tony Stark are best friends. Let's say they've been friends since college. And the Skrulls who've been on Earth, because the cool thing about the show, it takes you all the way back to 1992, right? That's probably around the time Tony Stark just graduated from college or so, or was in college, and he's already been identified as a billionaire heir and a genius very early on. The Skrulls probably would have kept an eye on somebody like that. Certainly,
Plus the fact his dad was a well-known weapons manufacturer. So
absolutely, he was heir apparent to that company. That's someone you keep an eye on. That's someone you put somebody close to. If
and
there is
that's what
anybody that you want to gain access to Tony Stark with, it would be Roni.
that's one of the things I was getting ready to say is, there's another channel that I always mention is Screen Crush. And Screen Crush is a YouTube channel that does a lot of nerd breakdowns and reviews. And the host, Ryan Airy, had this very same dialogue a week or two ago where he was basically saying, because of the fact that Tony Stark is who he is, it would have made sense for the Skrulls to put another Skrull agent next to him very, very extremely early on. But he doesn't think that Rhodey has been a Skrull that long. I'm hoping that he's only been a Skrull after the events of Endgame. Somehow, James Rhodes was kidnapped somehow and, was replaced.
Let me
Now,
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. In Civil War, Rhodey suffered a very severe injury, which
correct,
left him paralyzed.
correct.
Afterwards, in the following movie, Infinity War, you saw that Tony Stark had designed some legs for him, some mechanical
Braces.
legs, braces. But he still walked kind of clanky with those.
I don't remember him using them in Infinity War. I don't. He was
He
blipped
did.
out.
He did. I remember he was in when he had the meeting with Thunderbolt Ross. He still had them on.
I don't remember that part. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just don't remember that part.
Yeah. So this Rhodey that you see walking up and down stairs with Samuel L. Jackson, he seems to be walking pretty good.
And see, that's one of the things that Ryan Airy was saying is that squirrels are more durable than regular humans. And when you see him in this series, he's walking fine. We know the reason why he's walking fine is because he is in fact an alien, which goes back to me saying that he wasn't an alien up until the point of Civil War, at least. You know what I'm saying? Because
Nobody's
he
asked the
was in fact
question.
injured.
Nobody's asked the question. Hey, Rhodey, what happened to those braces that you wore over your clothes?
Right, 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 right. And see, and that's what leads me again to believe that he was not an alien, at least up to Civil War. Now, after the blip and after they came back, he's walking around fine. So the question is, when did this happen? Two things also about this episode. What really got me geeked about the episode was when Rhodey and Nick Fury were talking. They were talking in Rhodey's hotel room.
Right.
Before a word was even said, Nick Fury is sitting at a table with a bottle of whiskey. And being a whiskey drinker, I'm not a connoisseur yet, but being a whiskey drinker, you could see the back of the bottle, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, that looks like Pappy. And then he turned the bottle around, and yes, indeed, it was Pappy Van Winkle. And not only was it Pappy Van Winkle, it was Pappy Van Winkle 23
23.
year. I sent you the link to this, so pull that up real quick too. For whiskey drinkers, Pappy Van Winkle is one of those white whales. You know how a lot of people are looking for Ultimate Fallout number 4 because that's the introduction of Miles Morales. Pappy Van Winkle is important in the whiskey community only because it is so rare. By that I mean they don't make a lot of this. You can see the price for that one bottle. When Nick Fury was mentioning that on the show, he was serious. Okay, that's the price of Pappy Van Winkle, $5,200 for a bottle of liquor that you're gonna excrete out. Okay, the reason why it's so much, number one, it was aged for 23 years, and that's one of the things I was getting ready to say a moment ago. When you buy a bottle of whiskey off a shelf, it is no longer aging. Once it hits the glass, that's it. So it doesn't matter how old or how long you've had that particular bottle, it has aged as much as it's going to age.
Yeah, the
When
aging process takes place in the barrel.
which is what I was getting ready to say. The whiskey is aged in the barrel. The flavor that you taste is based on the wood that the whiskey is sitting in. The longer it sits in this wooden barrel, it's absorbing all the flavors that are part of that wood, as well as the environment that it's being stored in. Pappy Van Winkle 23 year, it's not bottled before 23 years. So this is something that Leo DiCaprio would love because it's right at the age that he likes. 23 years, right? That's what makes it so rare. That's what makes it so expensive. I can't tell if it's good or not because even the regular Pappy Van Winkle is outside my price range. I was in New Orleans one time and I saw that they had Pappy Van Winkle in the wild. Literally $75 a pour for 2 ounces of liquor. Cannot justify it. I can afford it, yeah. But do I want to spend $75 to drink something that I'm gonna lose a couple hours later? Nah, nah. Now if I win the Powerball tonight, it's a whole nother story. But as a regular dude, nah, not finna do it. But that episode really, really got me geeked when I saw them drinking that Pappy Van Winkle.
I don't know. I'm kind of bothered by a couple of things. First of all, I love the series, and I don't think it deserves the lack of viewership it's getting. And I certainly don't get the criticism that people are giving the series. I love the series.
Yep.
Um, as I said, my only criticism is that they didn't go big enough with the whole Skrull conspiracy. In the comic books, they had replaced like key people. Um,
It's budget. You're not going to be able to afford every big star to put into this series. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I understand that.
and I'm jaded by the fact that when they make the reveal of all the Skrulls all at once, they come off this spaceship. There's a scene in the comics where the Skrull spaceship lands, and all the Avengers are gathered outside, and they see the Skrull spaceship open, and it's got all these other Avengers or Marvel heroes coming out the ship, and they're all, you're like, which one's the Skrull and which one's not? Some of them are going, where have I been for the last 2 years? What's
It's that
going on?
Spider-Man meme. When you see Spider-Man pointing at the other Spider-Man, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
The
and
Secret
like literally,
Invasion, yeah, Secret
the
Invasion
Avengers,
storyline. One
the
of the
Avengers
big,
didn't know how to react. They're like, we don't
yeah.
know which guys are real, are Avengers that were captured for the last few years, or which people are Skrulls. It was very dramatic.
Here's the thing: for the past, I'm gonna say what, 15 years, Marvel has had a big crossover event every year. And when I say crossover event, I mean a storyline that impacts every book for the most part in Marvel. You had Secret Invasion, you had Civil War, you had Siege. There are several other ones that have occurred. Secret Invasion was one of the better ones. I would say Civil War was good, Secret Invasion was good. Siege was okay because that was a Thor centric book, and as you know, I'm a Thor guy.
Yeah, it was.
Um, Ultimate Fear wasn't that good, but going back to Secret Invasion, of the ones that they've had, that one is towards the top as far as quality is concerned because of what Paul was just saying. Is heroes that you had been reading the previous 5 or 6 years, that person or that those heroes that you were reading about may very well have been Skrulls. And what had occurred was Skrulls figured out a way to not only adapt the look. Skrulls can turn into practically anything, but they can never adapt the abilities of who they turned into. So if you could fly, if you could shoot flames, you couldn't do that as a regular Skrull. There was only one Super Skrull, Kalert. I want to say it was the is the name
Clirt? No.
Kalert, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And he was a longtime nemesis of Fantastic Four. I want to say he was introduced within the first 20 issues of Fantastic Four. So he's been around forever. He was the only one who had the extra abilities, and he had all the abilities of the Fantastic Four. Well, the Skrulls figured out a way to not only be able to get the abilities of whoever they were mimicking, but they were able to mask that they were not, in fact, that person. Because think about it. If you are a Skrull and you look like Johnny Storm and you can fly and shoot power, well, that's not going to do you any good when you come up against Professor X or Wolverine. Why? Well, Professor X can do a quick scan of your memory and see that you're a Skrull. Or Wolverine can say, you don't smell right. You don't smell like Johnny Storm is supposed to smell. They figured out a way through science, technology, and magic how to imbue themselves with all the qualities of the people that they were mimicking, which made it very, very traumatic, so to speak, when you saw the big reveal. I understand what Paul is saying, but looking at it from a practical standpoint, you can't necessarily have Chris Hemsworth come on the show and be revealed as a Skrull or whatever the case may be from a strictly financial standpoint. It should be a bigger deal. Some people have suggested that maybe it should have been a movie. I like the weekly aspect of it. I'm a huge fan of the spy genre, so I'm really loving this show. But you
Yeah,
know,
I don't think this would have worked as a movie simply because this is the first time we've ever had an opportunity to get to know Nick Fury. He's been there since the very beginning of the MCU, but we don't really know anything about him.
hell, we don't know anything about Rhodey.
We don't know anything about Rhodey, which
You
makes
know,
the Skrull reveal um, impactful, but it also raises the question: what's going to happen in Armor Wars?
yeah, yeah. Well, we only have about 2 or 3 more episodes
We
left.
only have 2 episodes left,
Right, right.
and so the
And
question
so at
becomes:
some point at the
where
end,
is Rhodey right now?
he's gonna have to be revealed. They're gonna have to get the real Rhodey. I mean, that's the only way you can have Armor Wars and have it make sense. Is that the real Rhodey will have to be found. Also, something that I've been saying: A, recast T'Challa. B, the T'Challa that died in Wakanda Forever was a Skrull. And you can have a scene at the end of this series where you have a new actor pretending, well, not pretending, but playing T'Challa sitting in a pod right next to Rhodey. And then that
Man,
does everything that you needed to do to undo Wakanda Forever and then have T'Challa continue to go on and be the hero that we need him to be. So,
I've been saying that, man, that the Skrull would be the perfect fix for this whole Wakanda situation, this whole
yep,
T'Challa situation.
yep, 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 yep.
Have that dude be a Skrull. Definitely have Nakia and TJ be Skrulls. I mean, kill them off. I mean, I'm cool with that. No loss there. Um, yeah,
I've been calling T'Challa's skin the Haitian bastard child. Have him be a Skrull too. That way people can stop saying, "Oh, well, he will sit up here and take on T'Challa's stories." Blah blah blah. That argument kills me because the son is not the father. John
right,
Quincy Adams was not John Adams. Okay,
right.
so it's just yeah. So that's it. But yes, going back
Ain't nobody checking for Michael Jordan Jr.
right. Going back to the series, I think the series is great. As a quick aside, if you like anime, if you like um, the spy genre, there's an anime called Joker Game. I highly recommend it. It is on Crunchyroll. Highly, highly recommend it. It's basically a spy anime. So that's my
Frustrated fan says Secret Invasion can reset the whole MCU. Absolutely. All characters are on the table. In the comic book, all characters are on the table.
yeah.
You could literally say, yeah, that's the person that you've known in all these movies and television shows. That's not the real person.
With the exception of Tony Stark. Tony Stark died in front of people. When Skrulls die, they revert back to their natural state.
Yeah. What about Black Widow? They did show her body dead, but how do we know that if when they pulled the camera away, she turned into a Skrull?
I'm sure that her sister would have said something because she would have had to bury her. So, and
You
that's
can't.
never been a thing.
No. Black Widow died on another planet or whatever at the bottom of a cliff.
Oh, that's right. When they were trying to get the stone. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, they did.
Yeah.
But then, if that wasn't the real Black Widow, then the stone wouldn't have materialized. So no, I don't think that works. I think she's really dead.
Oh, that's a good point because you had to lose somebody.
Yep,
That's right. That's right.
Yep. 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 Yep.
So sorry, Scarlett Johansson, you ain't coming back.
Right. And that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But going back to this whole T'Challa thing, making the T'Challa that died a scroll, like somebody just said, resets this whole thing and undoes whatever happened to Wakanda forever because I have not seen it, will not see it. And then we can go forward with the new actor, Damson Idris.
Uh, per- yeah, Damson is just
No, no.
yeah.
Heracles, no. He was already another character. We do not need him to play now T'Challa. There are other actors out there. Stop recycling the same people.
Give other black actors a chance to get a job,
There are
man.
so many
Check.
other people out there who can play this role. So no.
Literally, there's so many actors out there that could play T'Challa. All praise due to Chadwick Boseman. There are other people that can step up.
That's the thing that bothers me. I'm gonna go off on a very brief tangent here, but that's the thing that bothers me about this whole thing,
Hold
where people
on,
are saying,
hold on. It's been a while since I've had to do this. Here we go.
all right, so check it. Chadwick Boseman was a phenomenal talent, right? When he died, I mourned. I came as close to tears as I've been since Kobe Bryant died earlier that year, right? But he is not the only person on the face of the planet who can act. He's not the only person on the face of the planet who can play that role. Most of the people who are sitting up here saying, oh, the character should die because the actor did, are people who do not read comic books. There are people who do not read Black Panther. That's the reason why they're able to dismiss the mythos of this particular character. They're willing to throw away almost 60 years of storyline because an actor died. Chad was an artist. If somebody is writing a Black Panther book, if that artist, and I mean illustrator, if that illustrator dies, they're not going to then throw away the Black Panther book because somebody died. They're going to sit up here and get somebody else. It's the same thing. Chadwick Boseman was an artist. He was a very good artist. He brought T'Challa to life, but so can somebody else. Paul, I just sent you a direct message, and these are some images of actors out there who are good actors, most of them, B, who look like they could be this role. My number one fan cast for this is Damson Idris. You can't tell me that Damson Idris does not look like that he could be T'Challa. If he put on about 30 pounds of rip, that dude would be a great actor
Damson
as
Idris
T'Challa.
is the brother right here in the upper left hand corner.
Yep,
He's my number one pick to play T'Challa.
mine as well. Now, the dude who created this graphic, I provided him with most of the actors in this. There are three who I did not. The one underneath Damson Idris, I don't know his name. I think
Yeah,
he's a South African actor. I don't know him. The one directly across from him is old boy from Queen Sugar.
yeah.
I'm not.
This dude's good too.
And see, here's the thing. I've seen him in Queen Sugar. I wasn't necessarily overly impressed with him. Um, he's got the look. I'm not going to deny that. He's got the look. Directly underneath him is Yolande Knoll. Now that dude can act. He was in Insecure and The First Purge.
And he can do action too.
Right. He deserves an action franchise. I have twofold issues with him. Number one, his height. He's about 5'10", which means he's really about 5'9". Number two, I don't know. There's nothing that I've seen him in that lets me think, feel, or believe that he would be able to do the accent. And being able to do that accent is imperative to that character.
This brother right here fits
Sope
the bill.
Dirisu. That is
Sope
a name you
Dirisu.
folks need to know. Sope Dirisu. He was my number three, but he's been bumped down because I've seen other people who I think could do the role justice. But there's a series that Paul and I discovered about 3 years ago at this point called Gangs of London. I would highly encourage you to find Gangs of London. Just watch not just, but watch the first episode and tell me you don't think that dude could not be T'Challa. My only quote unquote only issue with him is I don't know how, people would find him, whether or not they would find him attractive or whatever the case may be. Dude is like 31, looking every bit of 45, 46. All right.
Leave that brother alone, man.
I'm just saying. But he's a good actor. B, he can really do action. There was a show that he was in on Netflix with the young lady from Lovecraft Country. One me, whatever her name is. Um, but anyway, it was a
It's
horror
funny.
show.
Frustrated says it's Idris. It's hard for me to not see him as Saint from Snowfall. You know, it's interesting you say that. I have the opposite opinion. Whenever I watched him as Saint on Snowfall, it's hard for me not to see him as T'Challa.
Here's the reason why. It took me for like most of us who are of a certain age, when Idris Elba first jumped on the scene back around 2002 with The Wire, for about 2 years, most of us didn't know that dude was a Brit, right?
Yeah,
Same thing with Damson Idris. This dude is British, sound like he's from California. Okay, he comes from an African family. I want to say his family is Nigerian who
I believe they're
immigrated to
Nigerian.
England.
Yeah,
Right. So he's already demonstrated that he can do accents well. On top of, if you've never seen him do Denzel Washington, just go to YouTube and put in Damson Idris Denzel Washington. He does a really good uh, Denzel Washington impression. But the second dude was I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he was in a show Raised by Wolves. He's a good actor,
yeah, he
right?
is.
Stephen James, the third guy, he was in the movie Race, where he basically played Jesse Owens. So, like Chadwick Boseman before him, Chadwick Boseman played like three, four real live people. He played, I almost said Stuart Little, but there was in the movie The Express about the first black dude who won the Heisman Trophy. Chadwick Boseman at the end of the show played a football player. I think his name was Earl Little or something, in a blink and you'll miss it role. He was also in 42, where he played Jackie Robinson. He was in Get On Up, where he played James Brown. And
Thurgood
he was
Marshall.
Marshall when he played Thurgood Marshall. He was miscast in that. I talked to Reginald Hudlin about it, but he expressed that he just wanted the best person for the role. I don't think that, but for Chadwick being in that role, that movie would have been made, but he was miscast in that. I say all that to say
He
Stephen
also played a god in Gods of Egypt, the movie I haven't seen.
we're not talking about that. Stephen James, though, is a very good actor. He also played in a series called Homecoming. And that there are several other actors there. Bottom left, his name is Carr. I can't remember his first name. Right.
I've never seen this dude.
He's playing in that show called Peripheral that's on Amazon Prime with
Yeah,
Chloe
I'm
with
not
Hit
familiar
Girl
with that.
from
I do know this dude is from Bel Air.
is he?
Yeah, he's from Bel Air.
That's
He plays what's the older sister's name?
I don't know.
Not Ashley, her older sister.
I Hillary?
Hillary, yes. Hillary's ex-boyfriend, the football player.
Okay, I didn't know he was in that. He was where I first discovered him.
That's where he is.
He was in that Christmas movie. Can't remember the name of it, but he was also in the Umbrella Academy, the last season of the Umbrella Academy.
That's
Dude,
right. That's right. He played the dude from the other school.
yep, that's right.
That's
He's
right.
like 6'3", 6'4",
Yeah, he's a
and
tall dude.
he's a really tall dude. So I could see him as it. So he's also British, if I'm not mistaken. So
Really?
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. He doesn't have
yep.
an accent.
So basically, we say all that to say here are 12 different brothers right here who could play the role of T'Challa without having to recycle other actors who've already um played superhero roles. So yeah,
I need to repost this picture.
yeah. And then the dude bottom right, he was in All American. He's British. The issue with him is he's kind of short,
This
right?
dude,
Yes,
that's
he's a
not
Brit.
that's not the star from All American.
That is the star from All American.
That does not look like him at
That is
all.
the star from All American.
That doesn't. I understand that's what you're saying, but I've watched that show consistently, and I would
That's it.
never have realized that's the same guy.
The dude next to him, this guy, I'm gonna get his name because this brother can act. If you have not seen the movie Overlord, I am going to highly recommend the movie Overlord. His name is Jovan Adepo, right?
No, never heard of him.
Right. But the brother can act. If you've watched the series Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan
Yeah.
on Amazon Prime, which just had its last season and the last episodes dropped today, he was in season 2, I want to say. That brother is a very good actor. I want to say that he's a Brit. Yeah, he's British too, right? Very extremely good actor. Watch the movie Overlord. And what's interesting about that is he played in the movie Overlord with the actor who is Kurt Russell's son, who ended up playing John Walker.
Hmm.
What's that guy's name? Something Russell?
Russell.
Wyatt Russell.
Wyatt
Russell. So basically, the movie Overlord, which is set in World War II, and it's basically a zombie movie.
Yeah.
And Jovan Adepo, the dude second from the left on the bottom row, plays a soldier during World War II who has to fight zombies. Listen to what I'm telling you. If you have not seen the movie Overlord, you've got to watch it. It is very good. And Jovan Adepo, that dude right there, he's a good actor. See, that's what I'm saying. Paul just said that he's never heard of that dude, right? That's fine.
I have heard of the movie Overlord.
Right. But
he's
not a household name. Most of these brothers on this list are not household names. And by denying another actor the ability to take on what should be an iconic role, you are denying somebody else the ability to level up, to become a household name.
He said he was. Pericles says he was also the Hooded Justice on HBO.
He was. Basically, in the flashback scenes, he was a guy. Yeah.
Shameik Moore.
No. All due respect to him,
that dude's like 5'5".
Shameik Moore was in a movie called Dope that came out about 7 years ago. He's also the voice of Miles Morales in the Into the Spider-Verse movies. But no, I don't see him as that role personally.
Nope. He gotta grow about 4 inches. All right, so we're going to take a quick comic break, and when we come back, we are going to get into some comic books. See you in a sec.
When you go to an art museum and you see pictures on the wall, what do you think? I can tell you that a picture cannot audibly speak anything. Yet you will be challenged to find something, however, that doesn't speak louder. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And that is how I justify buying black books at times solely for their covers. Sure, I would love for the story inside to be amazing. I would love for the writing to capture my attention and hold my thoughts for ransom. Yet I have experienced a world of story in an image. I am drawn in by drawings and pulled in by paintings, not having an inkling of the message communicated by the ink. For my mind has made up its own mind, and it has told me it does not care what the artist creates, for I, a created being, see me in the work. I see my babies, I see my ladies, I see my brothers, I see my fathers, I see my people, I see my equals, I see everything and anything and something completely different from you and you too. We see the same shapes and colors, but not the same images. Beauty is truly in the eye of the beholder, for I beheld a canvas that canvassed my heart and mind, giving me peace, giving me sadness, and giving me anger, giving me love and giving me hope. So when I see comic books with a face like me, I see a story where half the story has yet to be told, because truly it can't. After all, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Hey, check your DMs real
We
quick.
are back. What?
Check your messages real quick.
I gotta
'Cause
check my messages. Why you always
yeah,
you always DMing me while we're doing this?
right, because there's stuff I want you to show. There's a reason for it.
Oh, Lord, what is this?
Yeah, and as he's doing that, this isn't a good whiskey. I'm not impressed with this at all. This will be added to the collection that'll be sitting there collecting dust. Because this is, yeah. I wonder if you can donate whiskey you don't like to the homeless or something, or Goodwill. I don't know. This isn't good, and I don't want it to go to waste.
You are so damn stupid. All right, let me pull this up.
Sharp. Nobody got a lineup like me on television. Nobody. Mm-hmm. Look at that. Sharp. Nobody got a lineup like me on television. Nobody.
That boy can act. He's a fool. He would be the perfect character. He'd be the perfect actor to play the character T'Challa.
Good Lord. He is my number one choice, though, for real. All right, so comic books. I don't really have a whole lot this week. I didn't get it. It's not that there wasn't a lot of good books that came out. There was. I just didn't get a chance to read them all. So I don't want to talk about books that I haven't read and be, negatively promoting something. But let me show you what I did get a chance to read. I'm going to start with my favorite read of the week. And that is this book right here. Sirens of the City. Written by Star, art by Kari Randolph. Let me tell you, this was a real pleasure. I don't know the page count, but I felt almost like I'd read a graphic novel. There was so much packed into this series. This series stars this young woman who is, you see on the cover, you see that she's homeless. She's a runaway. She was adopted by a foster family that kicked her out. Frustrated Fan says, yes, this issue was so dope. It really was. It really was. I was blown away by this issue. I'm in. I'm pre-ordering all these issues. This is a dope series. So you see here in the streets of New York, this takes place in like 1987. So we're talking back when New York was still very the section that she's in of New York is like 42nd Street, Harlem, that type of area. This part was the city was still very seedy at the time. Hip hop was burgeoning at the time. Punk rock was still very popular and hitting the streets at the time. So you have this period of time where Andy Warhol is still blown up. In fact, I think there's a little cameo of him in this issue. So this, just to give you background on the time period we're talking about, she's on the streets of New York. She's a runaway. She's a foster kid she's a runaway from being a foster kid, and she has powers. They describe her as a siren. Now, in this universe, apparently powers is a thing. Lots of people have powers. And you have kind of the same marginalization or stigma attached to powered people. People are afraid of the people that have powers. Frustrated Fan says, all the characters were really interested and pulled you in. Absolutely. That's what really sort of brings you in. It's like every person that's introduced is a very, very colorful character, and you want to learn more. And I felt like the world building and immersion that you had in the story was completely total. I felt like I took a trip into this world. I can't say enough about this series. Sirens of the City. It's probably still on the shelves of your LCS. I highly recommend you get it. If you have a problem with the book and you read it, you said it's trash, you don't like it, talk to me personally. I'll prove you wrong. It's a good series. Check it out. Next up, let's see. I'm going to bring up a mainstream book. Miles Morales, number 8. Shout out to my man Cody Ziegler. He is putting in work on this title. If y'all ain't paying attention, I know Miles is real hot right now with the Across the Spider Verse movie, but the comics is where it's at. I've been a Miles fan since day one. I mean, since the Ultimate Universe, I bought
Do you have
Ultimate,
Ultimate Fallout number 4?
of course, because I was collecting Ultimate comics at the time. So I have Ultimate. I have the whole Ultimate Fallout's series. 4 just happened to be one of them because I was collecting Ultimate Fallout. And I've been collecting Miles since his very first comic.
What volume is this for him?
That's a good question. Let me see. This is technically volume 2, but he's had really in total probably 4 volumes, I think, because a couple of his volumes were labeled Spider-Man or Ultimate Spider-Man, something like that. So, but this is technically, as far as Miles Morales is concerned, his second volume labeled Miles Morales Spider-Man. Yeah, Frustrated Fan says this is actually his 5th volume. His 5th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's been around. He's been around for over 10 years.
Well, I mean, I know he's been around, but you know what? I just never collected him. I asked you earlier what issue they were on this one, and I see it's 8, so that's not a huge, long run to get. So I could conceivably try to start getting it, but I just never.
I would recommend this run. I would definitely recommend this run. He's Cody Ziegler has been introducing new characters, and that's the biggest thing with Miles is that he does not have an established rogues gallery, and Cody's trying to slowly build that. He's making new characters for him. Rabble was the first really sort of big one. They've made Carnage. They've reinvented Carnage. Established Carnage with nanites as well, some of Tony Stark's technology. So Carnage, for all intents and purposes, has been repurposed or reimagined, so to speak, and now has become a nemesis for Miles. There's another character called Wild Streak, something like that. A sort of speedster character that's also going to be kind of an anti-hero nemesis type of for Miles as well. In this issue, we have the introduction of the new Hobgoblin. We still don't know who the new Hobgoblin is, but he's very powerful, very nasty. This issue starts out with Miles just trying to be Miles. There's that duality between being Spider-Man and being Miles, a teenager in Brooklyn. And he's hanging out with his girlfriend, Starling. Shout out to that relationship. I mean, this is probably, at this point, as I think about it, the only ongoing black super love representation in Marvel Comics, in an ongoing comic. I was going to say Sam Wilson and Misty Knight, but apparently that series,
I mean, hold on.
That series is canceled.
Symbol of truth.
That's canceled.
But I mean, so they can still pop up somewhere else. It's not like they,
as I said,
ended their relationship.
The only example of black super love in an ongoing series at present. It's the only one. T'Challa ain't got nobody. Storm has Craig the astronaut, but he's not a superpowered person. It's the only one. Literally. All of Marvel Comics. All these books they put out all the time. This is the only black super love couple in the comics. It's embarrassing. But you get to see some good moments with them because they've been through some rough patches where he's like not really sharing and communicating, and she's like, we got to communicate. We can't do this relationship without communicating. And I thought that was a nice little moment. Didn't take much, but that was a nice little moment to show some building between the two of them in their relationship. And then when stuff went south, he's like, let's get suited up. And the two of them get suited up together to go up against the big bad. I love that.
Are you reading? Did you get Ultimate Invasion? Because he pops up in there.
Ultimate Invasion's dope. Did you get it?
Yep.
Ultimate
Now I'm gonna have to
Invasion.
go back and read the original Ultimate Fantastic Four issue where the Maker makes his appearance because I have no independent recollection of that character.
Frustrated fan says, "Don't let the art distract you. It's a lot of busyness going on with the art." I don't know if he's referring to Sirens of the Sea. I guess he must be referring to Sirens of the City.
Luke Cage has Jessica Jones, so he's happy with his interracial relationship with her because that's the mother of his daughter. So he's not going anywhere.
He's a family man. Let's just
He is. He's Luke
show.
Cage. He's not going
Let's
anywhere.
let's make him a positive representative of being a black father. So yeah, there's that. Next series, you used to collect Teen Titans, right?
I am a huge Teen Titans fan, going back to the Marv Wolfman, George Perez days. There is the Dawn of DC Titan series. You told me earlier that there is another Titan series that I'm not aware of, so I don't have that one. But I've got the
This
regular ongoing
this
Dawn
is
of
it. There's
DC.
there's a new series. It's called World's Finest Teen Titans. Now this is kind of a retroactive series. It takes place in the past. It takes place when the Teen Titans were first formed. It is a bit of a retcon in that the most glaring example is that Mal Duncan's not there. And if you read Teen Titans back in the day, you know Mal Duncan had joined the team before um, Karen Beecher, Bumblebee, had. There's no mention of Mal here. Excuse me. Bumblebee's on the team and Mal is not. But the writing on this is what really gets you. Art's fantastic. Excuse me. But the writing is what really gets you on this series. The repartee between the characters, the showing of where they are, the sort of you're getting kind of background in their personalities and what motivates them and the differences between the characters. The way they're all able to do that in one issue without really knowing much about the characters is good. I take that back. I say without knowing much about the characters. These are really most of these are already sort of known characters. So they didn't spend a lot of exposition on let me do the origin story of Wonder Girl or Kid Flash. They didn't have to do that because even if you're not familiar with their backgrounds, you understand the archetype of who they are, and they didn't waste a lot of exposition on establishing who they are. They are more focused on their personalities more than their origins and backgrounds. I thought it was really well written, so I highly
The
recommend
first
this series as
volume,
well.
the first volume, volume one of the Teen Titans, came out in the 1970s. Now I have only two issues of volume one, and I have issue 44 and 50, and that was 76 and 77, respectively. So you got to figure that the Teen Titans first volume one probably dropped around 1973 or so. So they've been around for an extremely long period of time.
Yeah, yeah.
And until
Um,
Paul just said so just now, and I don't even remember it from 30 seconds ago, but I never knew Bumblebee's name. Even though she's appeared on Young Justice or whatever, I have no idea what that chick's name is, what her background is, nothing.
the interesting thing is she's one of DC's first black superheroines.
Yeah, no, I get it. But she hasn't been utilized the way that she should be,
Yeah.
you know?
Um, Next up, we have uh, let's see. This is the final one. I had a chance to peruse this. This is Marvel Voices Pride. I got this because there was a variant cover with this new character who's introduced, and this is a story by Stephanie Williams. Shout out to Stephanie Williams. This is the new Nightshade. For those who know Nightshade from back in the day, she was a villain initially, who was in Captain America and Falcon comics. Brilliant scientist who used her science acumen for evil. Um, this character right here is her cousin, her younger cousin, who is a brilliant PhD student in science and is working on. I guess her thesis is on the use of the cosmic cube shards or cosmic cube energies. And in one of her experiments, some of that energy gets into her skin and imbues her with these powers. I think her powers are basically transmutation. She can change things. So she's technically cosmically powered. She's a significantly powered character. We just had a show recently where we talked with Professor John Jennings about his creation of Ghostlight and the fact that there's so very few black cosmic powered superheroes in the Marvel universe. We just had two sort of introduced within months of each other now with this new character. So this is her first appearance in this story, in this issue. So I would recommend it. It's also a very good issue, very good introduction. So recommend that as well. You know, they're talking in the chat about Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard, love him as an actor. He should have been Oscar nominated for the first Best Man. If Melissa McCarthy can be nominated for Bridesmaids, Terrence Howard should have been nominated for that. But he was a horrible roadie. Absolutely horrible.
They can now bring back Terrence Howard as a true war machine.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You know why they can't do that, everyone? I'll say it for you in one word. Tony. That's the way he said Tony Stark's name. Tony.
Understand something from Iron Man 1 in 2008. Terrence Howard was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. I'm an Air Force vet myself. When you reach that highest rank, when you get up to that level of rank as an officer, you pretty much you're wrapped tight. Terrence Howard's version of Rhodey was more of a sycophant than he was a contemporary or a colleague. And I just didn't like how they had this black man who was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force, somewhat as Tony Stark's do-boy. Did not like it. Rhodey has Don Cheadle's version has been more of a colleague and an equal than Terrence Howard's version. Terrence Howard is a phenomenal actor to love to do, but his version of Rhodey was just absolutely god awful. I don't know if Jon Favreau told him to act that way or if that was just his own personal interpretation. But the Rhodey of the comic books, now understand, I may not have his first appearance, but I think I do. But back in the 80s, when Tony Stark had his drinking problem and James Rhodes took over for him, even though he was his subordinate, he was somewhat of a badass in and of himself. Terrence Howard's James Rhodes was not a badass at all. He was soft.
I mean, and considering the characters Terrence Howard is normally played, it was like not Terrence Howard. Like, let the man be Terrence Howard. It's almost like he got instructed, like Mark said, it's almost like the director gave him instructions, don't be you, be this other guy.
Well, I don't need him to be him. I just need him to act in a harder manner as a lieutenant colonel of the United States Air Force than he did. Not as some sycophant. Here's my friend. He's my mentor. You're a lieutenant colonel of the Air Force. No civilian is going to be your damn mentor. That irked me to this day. I'm still drinking this and it's horrible. That was still drinking some stuff. I hated his version of it. I'm somewhat glad he was replaced.
Let's go to some of these other comments. Talking about Bumblebee. Nice to see Bumblebee on the cover. Yes, I mean Bumblebee has not been in a comic in a long time. The last appearance she had was in Other History of the DC Universe. That's about it. Before that, it's probably been a good 10 years before Bumblebee's in the comic. It's kind of embarrassing.
I have no knowledge of that character at all.
One of the first black superheroines in DC Comics. I literally think she might be number 2 after Nubia. Herschel will tell you he thinks she's number 1, but technically Nubia is number 1. And she has gotten no love whatsoever. You've seen her in Young Justice. You watched Young Justice.
Yep.
Let's see what else we have. Pericles says Afro puffs and a leather bikini. I think
What's
that's
that
going
about?
Nightshade. That's what Nightshade was known as. She had Afro
Oh,
puffs and a leather bikini. Yeah, the interesting thing about Nightshade, as C. Cole points out, if you want one of the better versions of Nightshade, Nightshade basically reformed herself. She became a good guy.
I remember her. She appeared in Captain America. Her first appearance was in Captain America.
Right, she
Because I
was.
have that issue. I apologize for interrupting. I just now remember when he said the Afro puffs and I remember who she is now. I have that.
Yeah, where Captain America gets turned into a werewolf.
Yep, I have that. I have that.
So she reformed herself and became a good guy. And that happened in one of the best series. Look, if you're in the space, if you're in the Black Comic Lord space, a series that we would say you must own is Nighthawk. You got to have David Walker's Nighthawk. That is one of the dopest series I've ever read, and I'm surprised Marvel even approved for him to do it. Nighthawk took Nightshade and reformed her into a good guy, made her the guy in the van, the guy behind the computer screen, his support person, which is more in line with her aptitudes for science and technology. But after that, Nighthawk eventually died, and she became the new Nighthawk, and that occurred in the of Occupy Avengers series. So if you want to see Nightshade become the new Nighthawk, check out Occupy Avengers, which actually ties back into this Marvel Voices story I was telling you about. Tilda Johnson, who's the real name of Nighthawk, shows up, goes to her cousin and says, "Hey, I was Nighthawk. I mean, I was Nightshade, and I sullied that name. I've moved on. I'm doing other things now. She's now Nighthawk. Um, I want you to take the name of Nightshade and turn something positive into it, passing the mantle of Nightshade to her little cousin. The most recent appearance of Tilda Johnson as in comics was actually in the Sam Wilson Symbol of Truth series. She was one of the soldiers who fought in that country, that neighboring country to Wakanda, that was having this upheaval where their White Wolf was trying to interfere with. Tilda Johnson was there. So Nightshade has actually been around very recently, as of just the last couple months. So you can find her there.
And just for clarification, looked it up. Nubia predates Bumblebee by about 3 years.
Sierra, I'm glad you're able to get a copy of Thor #1. I pre-ordered mine. I haven't got it yet because I pre-ordered it from a company out of town, but I should have it in the next week, I think. But let me know how you feel about it. Let me know if it's a good, if you enjoyed it. Teen Titans' first appearance in the Brave and the Bold for a run starting in 1964. That's a long time to have those.
It was, but they had their own book in the 70s.
Paul, you are BOT invited to the red carpet return of Howard to the MCU. That ain't gonna happen. They had contractual disputes, which is why Terrence Howard got replaced in the MCU because Robert Downey he was supposed to get paid more money than Robert Downey Jr., who at the time was trying to make his comeback after being in prison. And Terrence Howard was a rising star in Hollywood. So he was getting paid more than Robert. I think he literally got paid more than Robert Downey Jr. for
He
Iron
did.
Man.
Here's the thing: back in the 1980s, mid to late 80s, Robert Downey Jr. was like the it dude. He was in a lot of good stuff, but he had a substance abuse issue. So fast forward to the 90s, early 2000s, Robert Downey Jr. was known more for getting arrested and having drug problems than he was for his acting. He was not personally my first choice to be Tony Stark. But when you look at his personal struggles with substance abuse, it mirrors Tony Stark with his
Yeah,
issues with alcoholism.
absolutely.
So casting Robert Downey Jr. for this role was a big risk for the studio. They didn't know if he was going to go off on some heroin binge or whatever his drug of choice was. And so, it was a big risk. I want to say he only got maybe 500,000 for his first appearance, and Terrence Howard got like 2 million or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was something
Well,
crazy.
yeah, it was something like that. But then
It's a
after
big
he
disparity
did a
in their
phenomenal
earnings.
job, and the movie had the success that it did, Terrence was wanting what he was promised, I guess. And Marvel was like, "Yeah, we're going to renegotiate this deal." Terrence was like, "Well, basically, screw you guys. I'm going home," as Eric Cartman would say. Well, we see how that has worked out for him. But yeah, because I want to say Terrence was just coming off of his what's the name of it? Hustle and Flow, because Hustle and Flow was what, 2005, 2006.
And it got an Oscar nomination too.
Yeah. Let me see what year.
Frustrated fan says you was looking for Lucius Lyons. I would have liked more Lucius Lyons as Rhodey than what I saw Terrence Howard doing in Iron Man. Definitely, absolutely.
Right. So Hustle and Flow was in 2006.
Yeah, so 2 years before Iron Man.
Right. So they filmed Iron Man probably in 2007, released in 2008. So Terrence Howard was. Wait, he won an Oscar.
He didn't win an Oscar.
He won an Oscar. He was for that song Juicy J sang. He won an Oscar for.
For the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, he was nominated for an Oscar for that role.
UGK won an Oscar. I remember that.
Right, but he gets credit for that. But he was nominated for that role in Hustle and Flow, which was a very, very good role for him. So,
Fan for Collecting said there's a recent Wall Street Journal podcast that talks about why Downey was selected.
Well, he's a very talented actor.
Mel Gibson vouched for RDJ.
I don't know about that.
Sierra says he was nominated, but 3-6 Mafia won the Oscar.
They did win the Oscar, but Terrence was included, I guess.
I said UGK. It's actually 3-6 Mafia. Thank you for correcting me.
Right. But I guess he got 1-2 or something. I don't know what he did. 3-6 Mafia, Paul.
Lord of Brooklyn said, "You see, I was trying to get you on exclusive interview for Howard's comeback. You have closed the door now." I mean, okay.
Yeah. He needs to move on to something else. That's
a couple of the comics about Bumblebee. Bumblebee was in that, and in one of the DC Black Power books with Nubia. I have the book and can't think of it. That's right. There was a Black History Month book where Nubia and Bumblebee went on a shopping spree and some bad guy attacked. I do remember that. That's correct. Karen Beecher first appeared in Teen Titans 45, number 76. You should all have a copy of that in your collections.
Here's what's crazy. I have Teen Titans 44, and Mal Duncan was in that one. And then she appeared in the very next issue.
You need to get the next issue, 45.
Well, yeah, obviously.
All right. So that's it for the comments there.
For me, there, I go to the comic books. I try to get to the comic book store every week or whatever. A lot of the stuff that I have was not Black centric. You know what I'm saying? There was no Philadelphia release this week. There was no, the Blade series is over, Nubia is over, et cetera, et cetera. So none of the stuff that I had from this week's pull were Black centric. There's some good stuff that I got, but yeah. What did I say? The first what?
What?
The last comment, Bumblebee was the first to die.
He was the first to die at the hands of Superboy Prime.
What does IRC mean?
I don't know what IRC.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. Lord's Brooklyn, you got to explain that to me.
Yeah, no idea.
Probably something involving Crisis.
Have you been watching, switching gears, going back to television real quick, have you been watching Hijack?
No.
Hijack is a series. I don't know what platform. It's starring Idris Elba, who's on an airplane that's coming from Dubai to England.
I like how you say things like, I don't know what platform it's on because I watch a jailbroken fire stick.
I didn't say that.
You basically just said that because
I did not say that. I just said I don't know what platform it's on, and I don't.
All right.
So, I watch the show, however I watch it. And Idris Elba's in it, and he's doing a pretty good job. I'm gonna talk about Idris for very
What is
brief.
it? What is it? What is the show about?
As I was saying, it was about a guy who's on a plane. Idris is on a plane from Dubai to England. In the midst of them flying, the plane is taken over by several hijackers, and he's doing all he can to A, thwart the hijackers, and B, make it home safely. He's not being John
This is a
Wicky or anything
television
of that
series.
nature. It's a television series. It's about 6 or 8 episodes. We just
How
had.
long is this flight that they can have 6 episodes?
Well, it takes about 6 to 8 hours to fly from Dubai to England.
So it's like in real time, basically.
No, not. It's not like 24, but you know, it's several hours. It's several hours long, but it's pretty good. I
Frustrated
do.
fan. He says,
I do. I
"Look,
do.
Mark has a lot of time on his hands, so
Not married, no kids. I have friends, so I have time to do what I want to do. But I want to talk about Idris Elba for a minute. Idris Elba is a good actor. Never take that away from him. But his choices when it comes to being a starring role, other than his last movie as Luther, which was a really good movie, it's on Netflix.
Luther's an outstanding television
It
show."
is a very good show, and the movie was really, really good. It also stars Andy Serkis. But his choices of movies have been just kind of abysmal. If you saw the movie Beast, where he is on not safari, but he's on a trip with his two daughters to Africa, and they're attacked by a lion. Basically, it's Jaws on land, except sharks, it's lions. The movie was horrible. It just was bad. He has not really, outside of the movie, not Bodyguard, but I'm gonna have to look it up. Basically, he played a cop in England with old boy who played Rob Stark. Did you see that movie? Oh.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
takedown. The takedown. Was that it?
I forget what it's called. I know what you're talking about, but I don't. I forget.
That was his last. To me, that was his last starring role in a movie that was actually good. The Take. The movie's called
Lords of Brooklyn explains Infinite Crisis, the series where I believe Superboy Prime backhands Bumblebee and atomizes her head, basically.
Here's the thing. I have Infinite Crisis. I don't remember that.
Oh my God.
I haven't read it in forever.
C. Cole says, no, that was Panther who was killed. Bumblebee and Mal joined Doom Patrol, where they were slated to divorce, but New 52 stopped that. Man, Black Super Love is hard, man. I got a question. Do you think that Marvel will ever do a series on the Midnight Angels from Black Panther, or has it been done?
They did it kinda in the World of Wakanda.
Yeah, check out World of Wakanda. That's your Midnight
Roxanne
Angels
Gay.
by Roxanne Gay. That is your Midnight Angels series. It's literally a Midnight Angel. It's called World of Wakanda, but it's really a Midnight Angels series.
And it was a good. Roxanne Gay can write.
Yeah, it was a good series.
That was a good series. That was a really good series.
Go check that out because it literally changed Wakanda too. Lords of Brooklyn says, C. Cole, thanks for the correction. Fans for collecting. Hasbro trademarked the Bumblebee for Transformers, and Hasbro and DC settled a legal case on rights to Bumblebee. I always thought that might be what the limits. Oh, okay. That would explain why there's the only Bumblebee action figure that exists is the one from the DC Superhero Girls cartoon. All these action figures have been released by DC, and it's actually kind of embarrassing. Look, I got problems with DC on this subject. How they've treated their black women, superhero characters, their black superheroines, is abysmal. There are like no black superhero heroine action figures. I'm trying to think of even one. I can't think of even one. No Nubia, no Bumblebee, no Sojourner Mullen.
Vixen.
Vixen. I'm sorry. There is one. There's Vixen. That's it. That's the only one I can think of.
I don't recall seeing a Vixen action figure.
There's a Bumblebee one, but it's more of a cartoonish one from the Superhero Girls cartoon. Y'all got to treat sisters better in the DC universe. That's all I got to say. Let's see what else we have here. I liked him in Shaw and Hobbs. I'm Black Superman.
But he was not the star. And he was good in that. I mean, when you think of the stuff that he's co-starred in or been the second fiddle in, like one of my favorite roles or one of my favorite movies is Rock and Roll. It's by Guy Ritchie. He was good in that. You know, Guy Ritchie, Gerard Butler, Tom Hardy, very extremely good movie. He was not the star. He was not the focus. But when you look at, what was it, the Dark Tower movie, not that good. When you look at the Beast movie, it was absolutely horrible. The only one that he was in where he was the star that was good to me was The Take with Richard Madsen or whatever his name is, and his role as Luther. That's it. Like, did you see the 3,000 where he was the genie or something? The 3,000 Nights of
Yeah, with what's her face? The real ugly white woman. What's her name?
Wins all the awards.
Kate Blanchett?
No.
Yeah, it's Kate Blanchett.
Mm-mm. It's the chick who played the ancient one.
She played the ancient one. I thought that was Kate Blanchett. Isn't that her name?
I don't think so. Hold on, I'll tell you what the name of the movie is. Let's see here. Luther. 3,000 Years of Longing with him and Tilda Swinton.
You're correct. It's Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton. She's a very good actress. As Paul said, maybe not that attractive, but the lady can act. The movie is called 3,000 Years of Longing. 3,000 Years of Longing, right? Where Idris Elba plays a genie, basically. I tried to watch it.
It's like, isn't it supposed to be like Stella got her groove back, but with a genie?
I don't know, because I watched the first 15 minutes of it. And I'm like, I can't watch this. See, that goes to what I'm saying. I mean,
so basically, what you're saying is Idris Elba needs a new agent.
Right. So I'm looking at his IMDb. He was a voice in Sonic the Hedgehog. He was the co-star in The Harder They Fall, which was phenomenal movie.
He was great in that.
The Suicide Squad. Concrete Cowboy.
He was good in Suicide Squad. What do you mean? He was good in Suicide Squad.
The movie I'm talking about. When I'm talking.
First of all, I like the movie. The Suicide Squad 2 was a dope.
I'm never talking about his acting. He's a good actor.
I'm talking about the movie Suicide Squad 2. I enjoyed that film.
I did. You know, in all fairness, I did too. But A, he's not the star. B,
he is a star. He's the lead. He was the head of the team.
He's not the star. He's a co-star. Listen, it is It is an ensemble movie. He's not the star.
But he was the lead. He was the leader of the team.
It is an ensemble movie. He is not the star.
All right.
Not like The Take. He was the star in The Take. He was the star in he's a star in Turn Up Charlie, which is a series on Netflix that I'm trying to get through. The Mountain Between Us. Did you see that?
Nobody saw that movie.
Right. He was the second fiddle in Molly's Game. Great movie. Molly's Game was a phenomenal.
I think you've got a good case here. I mean, I think Idris Elba needs a new agent.
The movies he chooses are just not good. Where he's the lead, just not good. The Dark Tower, where he co-starred with Matthew McConaughey. That wasn't a particularly good movie.
He's too talented. I mean, he needs a big franchise. He needs to be the leader of his own franchise.
Look, right.
15 years ago, he should have had a shot to be James Bond, and this wouldn't even be a conversation right now.
Right. He's too old now, in my humble opinion.
I agree. He's too old now to just now start a franchise. It wouldn't work.
You know who would be good? There are two people who would be good.
They're saying this dude who played plays Gravik, Kingsley Ben-Adir should be James Bond.
His name is Kingsley Ben-Adir. He is
not to be mistaken with Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley, correct. Ben Kingsley and Kingsley Ben-Adir are two different people. Kingsley Ben-Adir is the brother who is playing Gravik. He also played in King Arthur. He was in a couple of episodes
Played Malcolm X in the
right. He
One Night in
played in a
Miami.
couple of episodes of Peaky Blinders. He was Malcolm X in One Night in Miami. Brother can act because he's British, but you would never know it. He's playing not Malcolm X, Bob Marley in the new Bob Marley biopic.
That's right.
And he very good actor, and he's young enough that he could start this franchise. Also, Jean Paul would also be a good choice for James Bond. But Loretta Lynch needs her own 007 franchise. Loretta Lynch is fine. Not Loretta Lynch, but Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch. Loretta Lynch was a former AG. Lashana Lynch. Beautiful, beautiful woman.
C. Cole, going back to my action figures thing, says he thinks it's enough. Find me it, dude, because I don't know of another one. Pericles says not even Thunder and Lightning. Not even Thunder and Lightning have action figures. They got Funko Pops, so that doesn't count. That's all McFarlane's fault. He doesn't think of any black figures other than Spawn.
But he's not the only action figure maker.
He's not. Hasbro can do the action figures. Vixen figure was based on the CW shows.
She did appear in the Arrowverse, and she had that CW Seed animated show.
The Vixen has figures, but they tend to not make it store shelves. Like most black figures, Wallace West has a few, and I never saw him in the stores. CW Vixen figure was a comic book store only figure. I didn't know that. I have the figure. I didn't know that.
I don't recall ever seeing it.
Beckinsdale, Tilda Swinton.
No, Tilda Swinton, right.
Tilda Swinton. There's a new comic, I'm assuming, coming out called Heavenly Blues. Have you guys heard? No. Heavenly Blues. What's that about? Yeah, what's that about? I've never heard of that one.
I did.
That was on Prime. He wasn't promoted as much as John Cena was.
Right. Going back to the whole Suicide Squad thing.
Bumblebee has one with Speedy from 2003 Teen Titans cartoon. That is aside from DC Superhero Girls. She does have a DC Bombshell statue. I have to see that one, Cole. I've been looking. I've never seen one from 2003 Teen Titans cartoon. I haven't seen that one. They typecast Idris to a certain degree, but he cleared up rumors surrounding him wanting to play 007. He said he's not interested. I'm not going to lie. I would have loved to see him play 007. You know what? He is so talented a guy that when I say he deserves his own franchise, he should have gotten his own British spy franchise, much like how Luther is his own franchise.
Well, Luther it is his own franchise.
That's what I'm saying. Much like how Luther is his own franchise, he deserves his own black British spy. He doesn't have to be James Bond. Just make him, just like how Tom Cruise is like, I'm not British, but I want to do a spy series, a spy franchise. He does Mission Impossible. Why can't Idris Elba be given a role as his own spy who's not James Bond,
right,
but does James Bond type stuff?
Like Alex Rider. For those who don't know, Alex Rider.
Perfect example.
Basically, Alex Rider is a teenage James Bond. If you have not seen Alex Rider, I do not know what platform it is on, but the Alex Rider series is very good. It's had 2 seasons. I think a 3rd season is coming. Very, very, very good.
Pericles makes the same statement. I'd rather we have an original black secret agent character than for us to get table scraps. He doesn't need to be James Bond. Give him his own franchise as a black British spy.
Yeah.
He'd be perfect as Matt Baker. Yes. Kingsley Benadir would absolutely would kill it as Matt Baker. He has the look. I agree, need a black franchise like US had Born Identity series. Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
But you know what? Idris is 51, 52 years old now. He's getting up there, in my humble opinion, he's getting way up there to be an action star, to start a series. The whole Luther thing where it's more cerebral than anything is fine, but to be running around, jumping, shooting, whatever, it's getting kind of long in the tooth for that.
Yeah. It just should have been The first black Doctor Who. Should have, yeah.
They had that gay dude from what is that series, Sex Ed or something? He's the he was the first black Doctor Who. I've never seen a second of Doctor Who, and I know that's a big thing for folks, but yeah, it's not my.
Yeah, I could never get into Doctor Who. I'm a Star Trek guy. But look, dude, it's been an hour and a half. My daughter's ignoring me because she's playing with her phone right now. But she's been very quiet throughout this whole series. I'm gonna go and spend my vacation with the family. I appreciate each and every one of you who spent time with us tonight. We'll see you again. Hopefully see you guys again next week. Are you available next week, Mark?
I didn't hear you say it again.
Are you available next week?
As of this moment, yeah. But
see, this is the life of a bachelor with no kids. This guy just does what he wants when he wants it.
Yep.
It's an interesting lifestyle. You never know what this guy's going to be.
So as of right now, I am. But if that changes, you'll know. Guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
We will see you next time. I don't even know how to do the closing on this show because I'm not here. All right. So next time, everybody, love you. Take care.